Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this tutorial I want to show you how I made this pendant, which utilizes flat wire along the side with the bezel, which does remove a little bit of the weaving that would normally entail if we had just used a bunch of round wires. So materials list are down below, and let's get started. So I've been messing around with some flat wire. This is flat anodized aluminum that I've hammered out into a little bit of like a round shape, and that got me thinking how I might be able to incorporate flat wire into a woven wire bezel. And I've done a project in the past that there should be a link popping up on the screen, one side or the other, that was a piece of flat wire like this that had like some round wire woven onto each side of it, and I'd made a bracelet out of it. And so I'm wondering now if I might be able to take a few things from that project and incorporate them into a cabochon bezel. And so I am cutting off about 12 inches of this flat aluminum wire. There should be links to all the different tools and materials that I'm using down in the video description below, so be sure to check that out for specifics. Getting a sip of coffee. That is good stuff. And the stone that I'm using is a little bit thicker than the width of the flat wire, just by a bit, so that actually works out pretty well for me. And then I am also using 28 gauge parawire in a titanium colored silver plate, and I am using the same color in 18 gauge. Now this is one of the samples actually from, I snagged it out of the pile that I was making for the Patreon packages, because I was all out. So I was like, yoink. But that way y'all can see what you can do a little bit with the wire that you get in our craft crates. Now whenever you pull off your wire and it's all kind of gnarly like that, you can just grip it with some pliers and then come in with your nylon jaw pliers if you have a pair, which I highly recommend if you don't, and just kind of straighten that out a bit. And you can see that really salvages it into usable wire again. And so I'm going to cut about 12 inches off in a length. And I'm going to need 4 of those to do this weaving pattern, I think. Just wire springing everywhere. So there's 2 lengths. There's 3 lengths, and there's 4 lengths, give or take a bit. And so now I'm going to pull off a full arm span, so about 5 feet of the 28 gauge. And I'm actually going to double that, so we're going to make it 10 feet of the 28 gauge. Set that off to the side, and I'm going to find the center of this really long segment. So I'm just lining both the ends up, and there we go. Here's the center. And I'd like to start weaving just on one end, so I'm not entirely certain what I'm going to be doing yet, so that's fun. So I'm just going to bring this and wrap it around our flat aluminum wire. There's 1, 2, 3 times. And I'm going to compress that together very snugly on a nice tight little section of weaving. think that looks pretty cool. And so now from here, I'm going to lay in one of the pieces of 18 gauge. I'm going to set the stone out of the way. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rotations around that wire. And I'm going to do 5 rotations, adding in another 18 gauge. There we go. And I want this nice and snug up against the rest of our work. There's one. I'm actually going to flip it over because I prefer to work close to me. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now everything's still a little floppy at this point. That's okay. You could use a clamp. You could tape things together. Just whatever tools you have on hand. I actually have a clamp that would be like perfect for this. So I'm going to find that and I'll meet you guys right back here. So here I have 2 types of clamps that were very generously gifted to me. This one I think might be a little small for some projects, but you can see it kind of wrenches open, and then you can actually put your project in there and then just clamp it down, and that really holds it. But there's not really a whole lot of room for more wire, so I am going to actually be utilizing this wooden clamp that has these bolts and wing nuts and little pieces of leather in here. I've lost the information of the kind couple who made and sent this to me, so if y'all are watching this, please comment with your info so that I can list you in the credits, because I really appreciate this tool. It is a game changer. So I'm just going to slide my bits of wire into the clamp. Just like so. And then I'm going to also insert the wires that I haven't added yet into the weave. But clamps like this are perfect for whenever you need like 3rd and 4th and 5th pairs of hands. And so now we're just going to tighten this down quite securely. That little leather buffer makes a really big difference. And there we are. Now it is snug in there. So I'm actually going to open it up a bit so that I can move my wire in just a little closer. Just kind of nudge it in. There we go. And there we are. Okay. So now that we have our wire clamped in, and if you don't have a very nice clamp like this, masking tape can sometimes, you could wrap your project in tape or just juggle it. For years I've just juggled it until this clamp was sent to me. And I'm kind of just straightening out these curves by bending in the other direction. Then I'm going to wrap once and twice around my 2 outer round wires, and then I'm going to wrap 5 times around, if our wide wire, it's the one closest to the wide wire. And so I'm going to be wrapping once, twice, 3 times, getting tangled in my pliers, 4 and 5. Just compress everything down nicely. And then I'm going to wrap once around our thick wire, our wide flat wire. And then I'm going to weave 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to weave twice around both round wires. So that's 1 rotation around both and 2 rotations around both. And then 5 around the one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now before moving on, and I am keeping that nice and compressed down tight, I'm going to flip this and do it the same thing on the other side. So getting all of my wires to where they're not going to get tangled up in each other, hopefully. So we've done our 5 rotations. It's a little loosey-goosey over here though. We'll get it figured out. And then I'm doing, yeah, I did 5 around 1. So I'm doing 2 around 2. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 around the 1. And so from here, there we go, it's all compressed down together. I'm hooking around our wide flat aluminum, right in line with this other one that's going across. And then I'm going to do 5 rotations. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If y'all can hear that tapping, that's actually, it's raining, and that's the sound of the rain on the windows. So I just know not everybody enjoys background noises, but I am loving it today. So that's 2 around both. Just like that. And then I'm going to be doing 5 around the 1 again. And you could do any combination of weaves here. So that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. There's 4. And there's 5. So now you can see we've gotten both sides more or less in line with each other. And I am just going to repeat this pattern. So now that we're here, you know, I've done my 5 around 1, 2 around 2, 5 around 1. So now I'm doing 1 around there, and I'm going to lock it down with the 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I really don't mean to be off camera. And 5. Before flipping it around, getting that wire off to the side, getting this one to where I need it. And so from here, we've done our 5. Going to be wrapping around our flat aluminum. Get it nice and butted down as far as we can. There we go. See how that's working? And then we'll stabilize with our 5 wraps. And then, so this is what we will be repeating until we get the length that we would like. 4 and 5. So I'm going to continue this until we have about 6 inches of it, and then I'll meet you all right back here for the next step. I've started to run out of wire. I only have about 4 inches and it gets kind of difficult to grip. So to splice in some new wire, what I'm doing is, if this were following around, it would have been exiting right here to do like 2 more coils. So I'm going to insert the new wire so that it can just behave as though it were a continuation, and leaving about an inch or so of tail to hold on to. I'm going to wrap once and twice, and I'm just going to leave these tails on for now. I'll trim them whenever we get a little bit more bound down. And then I'm just going to continue the weaving pattern as though that splice had never happened. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now that I've spliced that in, we can flip it over and see where that join has happened. This is where having flush cutters comes in really handy, because you want to be able to cut really close. And I'm just going to get in there as tight as I can. But there's a little bit, I don't know if you can hear, there's a little bit of a burr. So I'm going to get in there with my bent nose pliers and just try my best to smush those loose wire ends down. There we are, so they aren't poking out anymore. And that's just one side. So now, and I'm splicing in a good like 5 more feet on each side of the 28 gauge wire, a full arm span. And snip. So I'm going to come in again on this side. I've done 3 rotations. So I'm going to just insert this in so that we can follow the weaving pattern. Let me get this other side of wire out of the way. And there's 1, 2. And that completed that 5, 2, 5 cycle. So now I'm going to wrap around our flat wire and get that to sit nice and flush, keeping it tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, and I'm going to do the other 5, and then I'm going to flip it and trim. 4, 5, and there we are. Okay, so we'll get this turned over, and I'm just going to snip just as close as I can. Boop, boop. And then use our bent nose pliers to really smush that down. No pokey bits. Feels good. Now I have used a piece of scrap wire to measure around our stone, and I need about 5.5 inches, so just use whatever you have to determine the perimeter. And currently we are sitting at a little under 4. Was that right? I just measured it. 2, 3. Yeah, just a hair under 4. So I'm going to do another 1.5 inches of this weave, and then we'll get to come back, meet each other back here to start the sculpting and getting this to be a pendant bezel. Okay, well, sorry about the background noise. We're doing some laundry, so life happens. But we have finished doing our weaving to the full length. And you could just take this and make a bracelet out of it, or however you like, but let's move forward into shaping it into being a bezel. So to do that, I'm going to begin by shaping this around something like more like a mandrel, something that I can give me something more to hold on to. And so I'm actually this is just an acrylic roller to keep from scratching up the part that I use a lot. For polymer clay, I'm going to be using the end. Also, if your fingers are like your skin isn't holding up as well as you would like it to, this was sent to me by a friend here on YouTube, and it has been a complete and total game changer. Again, I'll link it down in the video description, but I have a blister underneath it from wire wrapping, because it's been a minute. And it has given me a second wind, so to speak, for wrapping even more. So that's what's on my finger. You could use moleskin and stuff, but this one, it's waterproof, it's holding up really nicely. So I'm finding roundabout on the middle, and I want to bend uniformly. You can kind of see how I'm shaping that around, and I'd be shaping it the same way if I were making it into a bracelet or something. But I want it to fit the bottom. So now that we have a little bit of that shape going, I can now, with a little bit more confidence, shape it up the sides of our cabochon. Oh, okay. Then I want to make sure that it's centered, these guys meeting up at the top, where my wraps finish. It looks like I actually wrapped significantly more than what I needed to. Oops. So now from here, though, this is what I wanted to experiment with, and we can see if I can push this. It's really stiff. I wanted to see if I could push these front bezels, like the wires here on the front, around a bit to get them to hug the front and back side. So I'm just taking my bent nose pliers and actually just getting in here and incrementally, just a little at a time, really encouraging that around. I'm really tempted to put this in my swage block the way that I did this piece, because you can see how that hammering gave it a nice curve, but it also, like, I was whacking the heck out of it, and it shaped it a little too forcefully. And I don't think I want to experiment on that after doing all of this wrapping. I should have done a sample piece and hammered to see. Okay. There we go. That gave us a nice little bit of bend around. We can smush it down onto our tile. See how that's getting bent? Okay. So that could be... It's a very subtle lip, but I was hoping it would catch the back side. I'm thinking we may actually need to do a little bit of hammering, or that I might have needed to have incorporated a third wire onto the front and back to get it to hold as snugly as I would have liked. This is why we experiment, try new things, because you never know if it's going to work or not work until you do it. Okay, so we got that started, and now just taking it and really encouraging it around. And so that's making a really nice little channel, hopefully, to hold our bezel into. Man, that looks pretty cool. I am interested, though, in putting this in my swage block. Man, now that just actually smushed it down all kinds of funny, though. Like, see how that's kind of bunched up weird instead of laying flat the way I thought it was going to. Okay, that straightens out. Yeah, don't be afraid to get your pliers in there, and kind of cinch things around, get them to happen the way you want them to happen. Kind of rolling it across the bottom. I want it to sit pretty snug. This knuckle in my thumb bothers me quite a bit. Okay, so I'm going to straighten that out some. So I'm actually going to take this and bend inward just a bit. Okay, so from here we can really start to use a little bit of artistic discretion to decide what we want to do next. I personally really like the idea of some cool like spirals and things, or who knows what really. We could totally take these two that are here in the front, and sometimes there's too much going on up at the top, so what I do is just bend it some and then kind of go from there. So I'm going to do a figure 8 weave, so there's 2 and then 2 and then wrapping around and 1, 2, and then wrapping around. See how it's making that little figure 8 in there? Then 1, 2. I'm going to throw in a 3. That's going to give us an expansion across this top edge because there's, you know, more happening up here than down here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I really recommend, if you're new to wire weaving, to really familiarize yourself with the figure 8 weave. It's really versatile, and the more muscle memory you get of it, the easier time you're gonna have, I think. Practice makes progress in all things. Oop, snagged a wire that I didn't mean to pick up. So how many are we at? That's 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And this is something great to do whenever, you know, you're just catching up on your shows or hanging out, chatting. 1, 2, 3. And I like to give it, see how it's kind of growing like that? I really like that. I'm going to give it a little bit of a spiral happening this way. And what I'm doing is I'm putting pressure on the wire here and here. So with my finger and my thumb, and then just running my thumbnail along that inner edge. And it helps give me, I think, sometimes a smoother curve. There we go. Good Lord, that washing machine is loud. Sorry. Super professional recording studio setting right now, but that's okay. At least I'll have clean clothes. 1, 2, 3. And I don't want that wire to be in the way, so I'm just going to bend it out like that. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add in a 4. And then 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think you're getting the idea. And if you're beginning to be suspicious that wire wrapping is repetitive, you would be right. It can be. The wire weaving definitely can be. But it's that establishing a pattern and a repetition that helps make it look so, like, methodical and nice. And you know, if you don't incorporate some rhythm and some pattern, you know, repeat, it can look a little more chaotic and haphazard. And so I don't know, I kind of like making a big intricate mess of patterns. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And so the goal here for this one is to cover up and bind off this top section. So you can kind of see, I want to bring it into like a little bit of a spiral, and maybe a spiral coming off onto that side. Because from here we can kind of just have fun filling things in with shapes. So yeah, I'm going to pull that off to the side. I'm going to bring this one out just a bit, and I'm going to start just coiling. Now you can see they aren't exactly, my coils aren't exactly right side by side to each other, so I'll cinch it down, and if you have any like weird bubbling or inconsistencies, I just grip it and cinch it, almost like you're tightening. And you can also isolate the problem spot with some bent nose pliers and just cinch that down and in, and then keep coiling. Push it on down. There we are. Whenever the tail gets a little shorter, more difficult to manage, I just keep on coiling it around, like so. There we go. Using my bent nose pliers to train that tail down. Okay, and so now from here, I'm going to use my flush cutters to trim just a little beyond the tip, about 4 millimeters. Saving my scrap. And then I'm going to use my round nose pliers as close to the tip of the wire and as close to the tip of the pliers as I can. And I'm just getting this cinched around so that I've got my full range of movement ahead of me. And then just bringing it into a nice little wave of a spiral. Whoop, love that. Okay, so that's one of however many are here, like 10 wires to bind off and figure out what to do with. Now this one I am going to continue coiling eventually. I'm not entirely certain what I'm going to be doing with it yet. I'm probably going to be putting it along this edge here, but doing it in a manner that's like bound to it, because not everything that I'm doing here is going to be purely decorative. Some of it's going to be structural as well, because I don't want that to happen if pressure gets applied to a spot, or you know, if someone, whoever ends up owning this pendant, having it as their own, I don't want them, if they're wearing it on a longer chain, for it to get knocked into something and the stone pop out. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm really not pleased with that gap right there. I'm going to see if I can... We'll keep working on it. But yeah. So that's coming around right there. Here on the back side, I could probably mirror it if I wanted to. Because sometimes I'll get ultra fancy on the back side, but you don't have to. Okay. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna have to get these guys out of the way. So what I'm going to do with these large, the wide flat wires is isolate them so that I'm not snipping anything else. Giving it about 6 to 7 millimeters from our last wrapping. There goes our stone. And snipping it. And so now I'm going to be taking this as close to the tip of the pliers, as close to the tip of the wire as I can, and bringing it around, so you can see how that is, and do a bit of a loop. But then I'm going to take it and fold quite firmly. And so now that should keep our wrapping from slipping off the end, and we should have, yep, no pokey bits. So that's good. It's really good. I hate pokey bits. And we're going to do that same thing over here on the other side. Can probably get away with maybe just 5 to 6 instead. Every millimeter starts to add up. So it's, I try to, I don't know, not be frugal, because I mean, I am being frugal, I'm saving all of my scrap, but it's, I don't want to have to leave more on than what is necessary. I want to make it look kind of clean, finished, if I can help it, because that's something that's always been challenging for me, is creating clean pieces. So yeah, I like how that came out. Smoosh smoosh, smoosh smoosh, beep boop. I'm just making noises, I'm sorry. But that at least gets some of that wire out of our way so that we can maybe visualize a little better how things are going to be coming together. Beep boop. So these two are our front two. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to wander off camera. Okay. So those ends are coming together really nicely. It seems like the sizing has ended up being a pretty good thing here. Now, I am going to make the bail out of, which one are you? This wire? And this wire, I think. Those two woven together. Yeah. And I'm going to be repeating the figure 8 motif on these two wires. So I'm going to bend everything else kind of down and out of the way. The para wire that I'm using, super durable, it can take it. Just getting kind of wrenched down and out of the way like that. Now, I'm using this tail of wire here, but I am going to end up having to splice in more. That's okay. It's just something to kind of know and plan for. So, let me zoom in just a little more for you. I'm coming off of this wire and figure 8ing around here. 1, 2. Then figure 8ing 1 and 2. Rotations around each. Cross. Wrap once. And twice. Once. And twice. And we are going to be repeating this motif. You could just do a single rotation, but doing the second rotation really locks it into place. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, nothing if not repetitive. So I'm going to keep doing this weaving until I've done about 3/4 of an inch, 2 centimeters, and then I'm going to put a bend into the wire and start weaving it back down. But I will meet you guys back here to show you how I do that, and I'll also be meeting you here for whenever I begin splicing. So just because, I mean, I have covered that content in other videos before, but I don't want to send you on a goose chase to go hunt down other videos. I'd rather have it all entailed in here. So let's do that. So I've woven until I cannot weave any longer. We've got a pretty short tail here, so I'm just going to leave that there. And I'm going to start splicing in the new wire, which what's neat about this weave, because if you can see, there's actually little pockets down here along the main wires. And I'm just going to thread this new, it's a 5-foot section of the 28 gauge pair wire. I'm just going to thread it down and in, like, if I can, all the way through to the bottom. Yep, there we are. That way I can keep it spliced in nice and tight to the side. I'm going to get in there with my bent nose pliers so I can grab it. And it's boop boop right through there. And I'm going to try my best to keep that hugged off to the side, because you can, if you know what you're looking for, see it in there. And so I'm going to just continue around as though that never happened. So there's 1, 2 rotations, and then 1, 2 rotations. We do have the option here though, I'm going to take those 2 off, straighten that out, is to get the sides to match, is I'm going to take this wire, our tail from our previous piece, and slide it down, if I can manage it, all the way through, if we're lucky, and we are. Excellent. Getting in there with some bent nose pliers, trying really hard to make sure that the wire does not kink as we just slip it right on down and in. And so now we'll just continue the weave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And there's a little bit of a hiccup there. 1, 2. But you can take it, you can kind of run your finger along, try to just break it up a bit, get it to relax. And then also we're getting very close to where I'm going to start bending the wires inward again. So let's actually go ahead and do that. Bend and bend. And you can see it really has a tendency to want to just slide right down. And so an idea that I've been wanting to try, let me see if this actually works though, is to take earring backs, a little bit of dirt on the package, but that's alright. And these little rubber backs are like so inexpensive and easy to come by. So I don't mind using them for what they are not necessarily intended for. Just to take it and just... Now I feel like I need to put it on the other way. Ugh, oh, it went inside out. That's so weird. Uh-oh. Well, how do I get that? Okay, it's to put it on with the smaller end. Oh, it keeps wanting to go inside out on me. Okay, and that will actually hold it in place. And so I'm going to slide the other one on the other end. And, again, I don't feel bad at all about being like, I'm going to use this tool that makes my life just a bit easier. Zoom in just a bit more. So there we are. 1, 2. press that down, flip it, lift this up just a bit. So I've never experimented with this before. I don't know if this is going to be cumbersome or helpful or what, but 1, 2, boop. I definitely feel like I'm a little slower, but anytime you add in something new, it can slow you down a bit. And I think actually I may just experiment with using one. And that way, because I still have my fingertip for holding this end. So it's definitely an idea. If you're just having trouble, maybe try it out for yourself, see if it helps. Yeah, I don't know how helpful it is. Let me try it without it and see if that makes any difference. Nah, not too much of one at least. But it was worth trying. I'm finding that if I focus on isolating the wire when I'm making the bend in it, then it'll have a much better tendency of staying where it needs to be. So I've wrapped it around and I'm pinning it with my fingernail, doing the first bend, first wrap, second wrap. Yeah. There's one wrap. There's 2 wraps. Okay, so that's pretty neat. And again, just do whatever you feel like you need to do to get this to be the result that you're looking for. There we go. Okay, so now I'm actually going to start getting these guys, instead of crossing, to be parallel. I don't know, maybe still a little bit of crossing. It's not quite there yet. And just keep on keeping on. There we go. Yeah, my decrease never looks quite as nice as the increase, but we all have our things that we need to work on. So and just getting a few more rotations with this wrap pattern in. There we go, separating those out. And just keep on weaving. Okay, so now from here, feeling about finished. We have the option that we could bend this forward and have the interesting weird end in the front, which I think we're gonna do. So here I have just a wooden stick for the mandrel, and I've placed it and I've begun bending around just like that. You can use just about whatever you have for a mandrel too. It doesn't have to be real particular. And then with the mandrel still in place, I'm coming in with my bent nose pliers, or round nose, whatever pliers you can get to fit in there, and smushing those 2 points together to really bind off the bail. There we go. So now from here, we have our wrapping wire. And I'm actually going to just wrap very securely around that bail. And then continue on with whatever it is that I'm doing, because I'm not really sure what I'm doing next. Something that I can do, if you find yourself at a loss, just tidy things up. So I've got these 2 loose tail wires coming out from underneath our bail. There we go. Snip those off. Whew, lucky I didn't snip our weaving wire. What good fortune. Okay, and now is a good time too to test the durability of the stone. Like how secure it is. Has a good bit of wiggle still, which I'd like to avoid that. So I feel like I feel like these 2 need to be climbing down the back in a way that is like this. So I'm going to bind the wire here to the edge bezel, and I'm going to put it into a spiral. Whenever I do spirals on the back, I typically actually always try to make sure that the tip is closed. I feel like it gets snagged less that way, but use your artistic discretion, decide for yourself. Yeah, so we'll be bound up here at the shoulder, and then we'll be down, get bound somewhere down here. Then I'm going to deepen this one into a tighter spiral. And it's, I was discussing the other day with a student, the concept of being a perfectionist. And that doing freeform things like this can actually be almost horribly challenging, because it's like there's no... perfection implies that it's done correctly. And with things like this, there's no correctly. There's no guides, really. It's, you do your art. And, you can't do your art wrong. So if you're finding yourself being frustrated at, this is not what I was expecting, this is not what I wanted, this is not, focus more maybe instead on what it is and how well you are doing. You know, it's, let it be what it's going to be. You've got this. Like this right there, that's not my favorite thing, but we'll figure it out. Like, I kind of wish that were tucked under that wire a little better. So maybe there's a way that I can, yeah, just cinch it around. Or maybe. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, we got this. Boom, look at that. And you never know until you start strong arming the wire around whether or not something will work. But yeah, I feel like this getting bound off right there and that one getting bound off right there will really do a lot to help keep everything nice and secure. Not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this guy yet. We'll figure it out. So I got started weaving. It's more of a figure 8 weave, and to get a really nice, like, tight, wide, like tight on this side and wide on this one, I've been maintaining the 2 weaves on here, but I went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, like, and I've gone all the way up to 8, and I'm finding on this next one I could probably do with 9 rotations. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's giving us a little bit of like a nautilus style spin as it goes around. And I actually think that this is getting quite wide. And so we have the option here to start tightening it down significantly. Or we can just kind of wrap this one around to the back, which I think would make me quite happy. So we could actually just join these two pieces together even into something else maybe. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to wander off camera. Let me adjust. There we go. But I definitely at least know that I want to continue this one around into a little bit more of a spiral. So I'm going to bring that out a ways just to give myself some room to coil freely. Coil, coil, coil. Do 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 do. Now also, I'm going to zoom out so y'all can see, but it's kind of silly, but one of my favorite ways to coil whenever I can swing it is to grab, make sure that you're spinning in the correct direction. Is that correct direction? It's just not wanting to do it today. It's a little top heavy. But sometimes I'll be able to take it and just need to be spinning, yeah, that way. There we go. And it just spins it, but it gets the job done. A little. And it's fun. It gives your hands a break. But the key is to keep the tail up out of the way. There we go. And just keep coiling that down. Keeping everything nice and tight and snug. Let me zoom in some more for you so you can see. There we go. Okay, and now from here, I am just going to snip, boop, and shape that around with my bent nose pliers. There we go. And so now from here, I'm going to take my round nose pliers and make a nice little curly cue. And I didn't mean for it to, but it kind of tucked up behind it. That looks pretty cool. We could do that, but I want to see how it looks with the spiral sitting on top. Just for the sake of seeing. Oh, that actually makes a really nice, like, little rose, almost. But, let's see if we can't open it back up. Because I really liked it tucked in behind. There we go. And I'm just going to tuck that up. And don't be afraid to try all sorts of different stuff to find what works to your preference. There we go. Kind of just getting this wire tucked behind. And you know, I don't even know if I prefer that. It makes me feel a little lopsided. Maybe if I bring it up on the side. Not really digging that either. Well, darn. Yeah, what we could do though is just take this on around. Open that up a hair. And just pop it here inside our bail, actually. Compacting that all down nice and tight. Trimming, I've got a loose wire just hanging out. It's maybe not in the bail, but maybe just right there. Okay, Vaughn, whenever you're editing this on the previous clip, edit out the Sam fart. So I'm just going to kind of wrangle that around. I like that. Maybe. It's art. Let it be art, Vaughn. So I'm going to kind of push that, bracing with my fingernail right there. Just kind of pushing that around. Ooh, I think I'm actually going to flip this underneath this one. If we can. Oh, I hope we can. That would be so cool. Yes! Okay. How that's kind of spiraling around. So it does kind of leave me with these two stragglers, but I think we'll worry about them in a minute. Let's go ahead and bind off. Like, I've run out of plan, more or less, so I'm going to finish up some little tail pieces, pulling off another 5-foot span of wire. I really go through this stuff. Okay. And so now to join this on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fit it. Doesn't really want to though, does it? So maybe I'm gonna need something with a harder tip than that. So I'm coming in. So here I have a T-pin. Hopefully this will work. I'm just trying to open up a little bit of space. Without damaging myself, the stone, or the wrapping. So I feel like I've opened up just a bit. I mean, because this 28 gauge, it's quite thin, so I should be able to manage something, I'm sure. There we go. And so now, I'm giving myself a few inches to work with. And pushing it all the way down. There we go. There we go. Just 1, 2. I want to do at least 5 rotations because I feel that's going to be quite solid. There's 3. There's 4. And so the trick that I'm using is I thread in, then put a bend in it, and then start coming back up. And that way it gives me just a little bit of wire to grab onto. And there's 5. And then I'm going to do a few rotations just on this wire to bind it off. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. So I'm going to snip that. Just like that. Use my pliers, smush that down, no pokey bits. And now that is very secure, I feel like. That wire is. And so now from here, I'm going to bind this one up here and down here. Just snipping just as flush as I can. Then button it on down. No pokey bits. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to use that same T-pin. Just kind of wiggling it in. There we go. Got us just a little bit of an opening. I'm going to try really hard to stay in frame. It can be difficult when I'm zoomed this close, but I really want you guys to be able to see what's going on. So again, giving myself just a few inches. Gonna be a few more inches. Getting that wire out of the way. Now this one doesn't really want to go in, so I'm going to try it from a different angle. I've said it before, but I think it's worth saying again. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the project. Okay. There we go. Down and through. This one's really giving me a heck of a time. There we go. So see how that wrapped? Go. There we are. And there we go. And so now from here to bind it, I'm actually going to just vine down. That'd be a lot easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To travel down that wire. Let's throw on 1 and 2 more. And then I'm going to open it up right here. Again, it gets kind of dangerous whenever you start getting tired, your hands start getting sore, you're more prone to maybe make mistakes. And so I always get kind of just a little nervous whenever I'm working with pokey things. There we go, that hopefully opened us up enough. Because it's like, man, is today the day I stab myself? Like, really? So far it is not that day, but I don't want to jinx it. Thinking around. Linking around. Oops. There we are. If I can fit one more, that would be fabulous. Doesn't seem like it. So I am going to get a few more rotations around this wire here. And snip it. And smush it. There we go. Okay, so the back's bound off. And I really like that. So I went ahead and covered these two stragglers in coils. And then I am going to coil maybe about 1 centimeter on this one. So it's there we are. And there we go. So about 1/2 centimeter. And then sliding it on down all the way to the base. And I'm not entirely certain how I want to go about doing this. Because, I mean, I was going to bind it down to this corner. But I'm also thinking that I really kind of like this shape. Or maybe just twist it down into a spiral. Okay, so I'm actually going to pull it out closer to the tip because it's easier for me to coil there. There we go. Okay. Keeping all those coils pressed down together. So there we are. And I think I'm going to snip the core wire, but not the weaving wire. So I'm going to come in and snip the 18 gauge, giving myself about 4 or 5 millimeters. Snip. And then coming in with my round nose pliers, again, as close to both of the tips as I can. And just coming up like that. Squeezing that down. Now you can see my pliers bit in right there, and they kind of split the coils. We can actually get in with my fingernail maybe and kind of recompress that, make it to where it's a little tighter. And so now with our long tail of wire, I'm actually going to stitch down and through maybe everything, like all of the layers. or try to. There we go. Yeah, through all of the layers. Cool. That worked out way better than I thought it would. Maybe. Hasn't completely worked out yet. So yeah, just pulling through. And hopefully what this will accomplish will be stabilizing all these coils, because I do not want them flopping around everywhere, and I really like those coils off to the side. And so now from here, we can bend this one around like that. Maybe. I don't know. We could bend it around topsy-turvy on this side. Ooh, I like that. I like that doubled up look. Then maybe I don't know, maybe a little curly Q right here. Kind of pulling that off to the side so I can get a nice spiral around it. Sorry, I don't mean to wander off camera. And then nestle it back in. Meh, I don't like that. And that's okay, you never know until you try. Just uncoiling, or not uncoiling, unspiraling everything rather. Okay, so I have it wrapped around the neck of the bail, and I'm just going to do a tight little loop, and then another tight little loop, and then a little bend, like a little squiggle. That's the technical terminology for it. Maybe that squiggle can sit. Nope, that squiggle sticks out too far. Too much squiggle. Mayday, mayday. So maybe I can grab it here and force a tighter squiggle. Just forcing that around with my thumb. And I am actually going to trim this a bit shorter. Grab it. Just putting this one right there. This is going to take some stabilizing though. So here we have our wire coming through the backside, and we can actually, maybe, through these kind of ladder stitches, hook up and through. Like you can see there on the back, it's hooked through right there. See? Grab and pull through. I just needed something to be able to stabilize here on the back. And so now from here, I'm going to insert through our loop. And then go ahead and pull all the way through, trying to make sure that it doesn't kink or anything. There we go. And already that's just a little bit more secure. So sorry that I wander off camera, out of frame. Okay. And so now I'm going to enter through, re-stitch back through everything if I can manage it. It's hard to do. Let's straighten that wire out a little bit more. You know, and it's occurred to me I don't have to thread through it. There we go. Okay, I got it threaded through kind of randomly. It can be random so long as it's concealed. Which currently that's a little too... There we go. Sorry. Not mean to go off camera. So that's how that coiling is starting to come together. Now that we're here on the back side, double check for any weird bits and kind of push that out some so that it... Nope, I liked it better smushed in. I'm having the hardest time making my mind up on this piece, but it makes for art. It really does. And instead of cutting my wire and working my way back, I am actually going to just vine my way up. Get tangled on my pliers. So yeah, I vined my way up. I think I'm going to hide a stone. Just a small rose quartz. Just because why not? Just kind of sneak it in there on the back side to nestle into that little cubby. And so it's just going to sit right there. And then I am going to build a coil up this whole length. There we are. Kind of coil and then push back down. And so I'm gonna finish coiling this. Maybe, I don't know. Well, I'll stay with you guys. We'll do it together. There you go. This might be a nice opportunity, actually, to put some spin on it. That's how to do a coil. And again, to troubleshoot, if you get any like weird bubbling or anything, put your pliers on the bubble and then cinch it down. So on the bubble, cinch it down. And that helps tighten it up. Okay, so we've gotten this far. Before I go much further, I want to start considering where it is I'm even going to place this wire. Thank the squiggles. Woo! Yes. Excellent squiggles. Okay. Okay, so then I'm gonna pop in another little squiggle right there. Kind of press everything together. Put a little bit more coiling in it. There we go. My flesh cutters. Snip just that little bit of excess off. Grab and spiral. Okay, and so now, again, we're going to want to ground this. And so I'm just going to insert it through kind of randomly. It can be random so long as it's hidden. I'm going to straighten that wire out as best I can. I'm kind of just ramming it through, trying to get it to go through anywhere. Maybe between there. Will that work? No? Maybe? Nope. You can see my wire's getting quite gnarly. There we go. Okay. I guess it is just super snug on this side. Because I am having a really difficult time. So maybe I can slide it through somewhere farther down where we could have an easier time getting it through, maybe. No, of course it slides through down there. Oh no, and it broke off. Well, drat. Okay, so now maybe we can feed it through from the back side and still use it to bind off. Maybe I can use the other end. Okay, it's time to be the smarter hairless primate and use some tools. Okay, so we've pushed through. There we are. And so now I'm going to try to feed through the same way. There we go. And we can pull that down nice and tight, because we don't want it to be evident at all that that happened. So we can actually grab these wires. Yeah. Get them nice and snug. They're threaded through and underneath, and then we can actually just vine them down with the other ones. See how that's working? And just one more rotation, I do think. Whoop. Now, time to bend these under to make absolute certain there are no pokey bits. There we go. And there's our pendant, utilizing the flat wire on the sides. I think that gives a really nice effect. And I think it leaves a lot of room for some creative self-expression. Some getting artsy-fartsy with it. And I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. Hey y'all, so thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video. I do hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. All of the links to my social media and Patreon and different things will be down in the video description as well. So if you want to tag me in pictures on Instagram or share images of what you've made to my Facebook wall, those would be the links to follow to do that. Now also, if you enjoy my free daily tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, as well as participate in my weekly giveaways and my monthly craft crates and my digital download content and behind the scenes, like pictures and videos and sneak peeks and stuff, please consider joining me over on Patreon. Every little bit that you guys pledge and donate, and even just advice that you post and stuff, like you don't even have to be a pledger to post things. Everything that you guys do helps me so much, and I really appreciate it, so thank you. And on that note, until next time, happy crafting, and I'll see y'all around. Bye!